Here we go, day 2 of BlizzCon 2010. Before I started, I thought I'd just quickly mention that you can find the winners of the fan art, original song and movie contests in the links below. They did some amazing work and definitely deserve any and all support. But for now, let's get on to the news. In the Diablo III Crafting Sanctuary panel, the whole Diablo III development team came together and spoke about how they go about, or went about, crafting the world of Sanctuary in Diablo III. One of the more interesting things they covered in this panel was their design philosophy or mantra of sorts. Play, don't tell. They say that in Diablo 3, instead of making you read a wall of text or listen to a 5-minute monologue, they'd rather have you see it in action or do it yourself. They also talk about opt-in storytelling, a system they use in Diablo 3 which allows you to take in more or get more thrown at you should you want to hear it. In the end, it should always be the player that decides how much of the story he or she wants to take in. After that, they moved into a rather lengthy discussion about how they actually built the world of Diablo from the ground up. They used the example of Bastion's Keep and showed how they did it from beginning to end. It really was pretty interesting. They say that they chose to drop randomly generated levels above ground and rather only use them for caves, dungeons and other instance-like areas. This helps them tell the story more effectively and makes it more engaging for players. They had a talk about the monster AI and all the differences that are meant to exist between normal monsters and bosses. They also mentioned a special mob that will roam the game world but will be incredibly hard to catch or kill. If you kill him though, you will be rewarded with some really nice loot. They talked about the armor sets in the game and the creation of them, which led to the artisans. The 3 artisans are the Mystic, the Jeweler and the Blacksmith. The Mystic crafts wands, staves and other magical items, and it can also identify and enchant. The Blacksmith can craft armor, weaponry, add sockets to items and repair. The Jeweler crafts rings and amulets, combines gems and can desocket items. We also hear that Diablo 3 has 14 different quality levels of gems and only the first 5 drop from monsters. Lastly, they mention that we will be getting many different color dye choices for our armor. You can pick dyes up, craft them or buy them, and there are rare and common dyes. Apparently there's a lot of customization that can be done here. That was pretty much it for the Crafting Sanctuary panel. The World of Warcraft cinematics panel ended up being quite similar to the Starcraft cinematics panel, but one big difference was there was quite a big reveal at this panel. We were shown the new Worgen starting area cinematic, which features the voice of Lord Godfrey. After seeing the Goblin cinematic a few weeks ago, we were all pretty keen to see this one, and it definitely doesn't disappoint. You can check that out below. Apparently Deathwing is the most detailed model in World of Warcraft history. Another interesting little reveal, if slightly irrelevant, was that the flames in Deathwing's flight in the Cataclysm cinematic were over 40 gigs in size. There was a quick Q&A at the end of the cinematics panel, and if you're interested in more technical details, then you should probably check that out. You can also find a nice gallery of all the photos that were taken at the panel over at MMO Champion. The World of Warcraft class Q&A. I guess this is something for the more hardcore World of Warcraft players. First of all, there was a lot of whining. Everyone kept asking Blizzard why they hate their class and why they got nerfed so hard in 4.0.1. Anyway, moving on. Blizzard is still working on all the racials, but they do not plan on normalizing them across the board. Blizzard believes the new Tree of Life skill will grow on players. Any plans on reducing the minimum range of hunters? No. Why add holy powerful paladins? Well, they wanted the class to be more diverse and not 100% reliable on mana. Players were concerned that the wild mushroom skill for druids was bad. Blizzard told them to learn to play. This isn't really class news, but we heard that Murlocs will never be a playable race. There were many other questions and answers for all the classes, and if you're interested in that, I guess you should just check the full transcription below. This year's BlizzCon Starcraft II art panel was apparently known as The Making of Modcraft II, The Tinkering. It featured the whole Starcraft II art team and, as expected, it was heavily focused on the new custom maps made by Blizzard. They went through, step by step, the creation of the art, maps and models for their new custom maps in Starcraft II. We also saw a few cool concepts of the heroes in Blizzard Dota and their other maps. They also mentioned that for modeling work they mostly use 3D Max, and for general art stuff they use Photoshop. After the presentation portion of the panel, it moved on to a Q&A which was mostly focused on people asking how they can get jobs at Blizzard. After that, probably the biggest part of the whole panel, Heart of the Swarm concept art. Some of it was really cool. Firstly, they showed a little creature that looked sort of like a skinny Zergling hybrid, and after that they showed an incredibly huge and buffed up looking Ultralisk. They also showed 2 zones, both looked quite lush and vibrant and pretty colourful. Then, finally, one of Kerrigan, who was glowing blue in the picture, standing in front of a huge Zerg creature. Right before the panel was about to end, we saw a bunker morph into some sort of Zerg creature. A bunkerlisk, maybe? Either way, it was pretty interesting. The World of Warcraft Open Q&A, exactly where you want to be if you're a WoW player. While there weren't really any huge pieces of information given away, there were quite a few good questions and the answers were pretty entertaining. There are no plans to make armor look different on different races. Apparently they're planning on adding more variety for female characters in World of Warcraft in the future. They say there's a lot more work to be done on the talent trees and there are a lot more account-bound items coming soon. They also talked about a sidekick system they're considering using where you can scale your character's level down so that you can quest with your friends without penalizing them in any way. A tab or drop-down menu is in the works, sort of like the title selector currently in the game. The dance studio is coming when it's ready. There were a lot more questions and you can find a nice transcription of the entire thing over at MMO Champion. The Starcraft II multiplayer panel is something that anyone and everyone who plays Starcraft II competitively should probably either watch or read into more in-depthly. The gurus from over at Blizzard who work on the Starcraft II multiplayer balance gave a bit of a talk about the tools they use to balance the game. Player and community feedback, pro feedback, tournaments, spreadsheets and their own little tool, Make Combat. They then talked about the matchmaking system and the little pieces of randomness that they just can't account for. We got a few hints about what may be going under the knife in the next patch in Starcraft 2. Marine and Marauder's Stim, Repairing Thors, and High Templar's Storm and Feedback are all going to be looked at. After that the Q&A started and we heard that the map marketplace will in fact be coming soon. Zerg will never be able to block their ramps or choke points as easily as the other races do. We also heard that there will be a test server coming soon where players will be able to test the new patches before they go live. You can read more about all of that below. The Diablo 3 Q&A was really cool for all us Diablo fans. An ear keyring for Diablo 3. Blizzard joked and said that they won't ship the game before there's something as cool as that in it. Endgame in Diablo 3. Blizzard says rather worry about the rest of the game first and leave that up to them. They are apparently thinking of replayability, dungeons, PvP and alts. They say that gold will mean a lot more in Diablo 3 than it did in Diablo 2. There won't be PvP specific gear in Diablo 3, so no resilience. Game director Jay Wilson is a griever. BlizzCon 2010 exclusive. Tristram is in Diablo 3, there won't be dual specs, and there also won't be WASD movement. Apparently Blizzard will never push for Diablo 3 esports. And another little BlizzCon exclusive was that the stash will be consistent across all characters. Okay, so I didn't get to watch the entire World of Warcraft art panel, but I think we all know pretty much what we could have expected from it. The World of Warcraft art team mostly talked about their work on Cataclysm and all the new models, areas and textures they had to create for it. They talk about the new and amazing changes made to Azeroth and a lot of talk about the new Goblin and Worgen models. They say that it was a lot more effort to make them and there's a lot more polygons in those new models than the older ones. Perhaps the biggest and most interesting reveal of the art panel was the new World of Warcraft Cataclysm login screen. It really looks amazing and I can't wait to look at Deathwing every time I log into Cataclysm. You can see a video of that and many pictures from the art panel in the links below. While it may have been the last panel of BlizzCon 2010, the Blizzard sound panel was a real treat for all the music lovers out there. Blizzard Entertainment's Russell Browder had a nice little talk about all the work that goes into making the music for their games. After that, he and a team of talented musicians and composers treated the audience to some live music. They had a few guests up on the stage to talk about making music in video games and it was all pretty interesting to listen to. The panel was ended with a pretty amazing performance of Public Enemy from the Starcraft II soundtrack. You can read more about the entire panel below. I picked up a few extras from the various interviews between the panels. World of Warcraft's standard 16-slot backpack will be upgraded soon. Will there ever be replays for World of Warcraft? Possibly. Will there be another expansion for World of Warcraft? Definitely. When is Blizzard planning on redoing the older character models? Possibly in the next expansion. Blizzard is working on concepts and models for their new MMO. There is no in-game yet. According to Chris Metzen, Thrall is going to be the one that saves the world. He's a pretty important guy. Will Thrall find love? Will he have little brown babies? What will happen to him? These are all questions that they want to answer sometime in the future. The Starcraft II Invitational at BlizzCon came to an epic conclusion last night. Next Genius, after being knocked out of the winners brackets by Loner, battled his way all the way through the losers brackets only to meet up against Loner again in the grand finals. This time he had to win 2 best of 3 series in a row. The Protoss player Next Genius took the first best of 3 with a score of 2-1 and the second best of 3 with a score of 2-0. The games were incredibly long and there were many back and forth battles, but the better player came out on top. Next Genius definitely deserves his win at BlizzCon 2010. You can find all the replays of the event and the full brackets at the BlizzCon site or in the links below. Team AAA won the World of Warcraft Arena tournament. They had a straight run through the winners bracket to the grand finals, where they waited for Complexity Red to meet them for a second time in the tournament. After some pretty intense games, the MLG winners Complexity Red just couldn't stand up to AAA's strength anymore. You can find the full brackets and more details below. The Korean player Remind has won the Warcraft 3 Invitational at BlizzCon 2010. He battled his way through the winners bracket and took down Infi in the finals with a score of 2-1. You can find those full brackets below too. In the closing ceremony of BlizzCon 2010, Paul Sams came out onto the stage and pretty much just conveyed his appreciation and thanks to all the fans that came to the event this year. After that, they played a short highlight video of the 2 days of the event, then pulled all the winners onto the stage and presented them with their prizes. Paul Sams then made a funny and said that he was about to announce their new MMO. He said that it was going to be called World of Jersey, Shorecraft, then Diablo, and then Booty Baywatch. He then moved on to talk about the World of Warcraft movie and said that Ozzy Osbourne was in fact not going to star in it, and Sam Raimi is still set to direct it. A few interesting Diablo III stats from the weekend. Apparently 1,400 PvP games were played and 3,400 PvE games were played. Then, in perhaps the biggest news of the entire weekend, Paul Sams reveals that they will be giving 1,000 lucky BlizzCon visitors a Diablo III beta key. After that, Tenacious D went live. Jack Black was dressed as what seemed to be Jaina Proudmoore, and Kyle was dressed as a small lizard. I have to say those two are amazing entertainers and the crowd loved it. Seeing the devil battle Arthas and then proceed to join him in a rock-off, I mean really, who could want more? So that's it for BlizzCon 2010 Day 2 and, well, the entire event. Thanks for watching these videos. If you did, be sure to subscribe, check out my other shows, and share them with your friends. I hope you all enjoyed BlizzCon 2010 as much as I did, and that's it. Goodbye.